I'm 15, and I'm sitting in my room at my grandmother's house. Outside it's evening, and I'm watching the city lights flicker in the distance. 2 months ago, I was an ordinary teenager. I went to school, played basketball, argued with my mom about grades, and dreamed that my father would finally notice me. And today I own a penthouse, my mother has blocked me on her phone, my father, who disappeared for a whole year, is sitting in the next room trying to rebuild our connection, and the man my mom was going to make my stepfather turned out to be a common con artist. I don't believe in scripts, but if someone had told me 6 months ago that I'd go through all this, I would have laughed. But the laughter didn't last long. I'm going to tell you everything because I know there are teenagers out there and even adults who are facing similar betrayal. And I want you to know, you're not alone. My name is Ethan. I live in a small town in Ohio, though now I live with my grandmother in her house on the outskirts. My room here is smaller than the one I had, but it's cozy. Grandma hung my drawings on the wall and put in an old sofa where we watch movies on Fridays. She takes care of me like no one else, and I'm endlessly grateful to her for that. But to understand why I ended up here, we need to start at the very beginning, from the moment my world started to fall apart. My father, he was a workaholic. I barely remember him being home. He'd leave before dawn, come back late, often missing my school games and birthdays. Mom complained that he only lived for work, that she was basically raising us alone. I thought it was just arguments that they'd make up like they used to. But one day, when I came home from school, I caught her packing his things into boxes. I asked where he was going, and she answered dryly, "He won't be living with us anymore." I tried calling him, he didn't answer. A week later, I got one message, "Behave yourself." That was it. No sorry. No, I love you. Just behave yourself. I didn't know what to do. I hated him, I cried at night, I searched the internet for answers, and I thought I was a bad son because he left. Mom didn't want to talk about it. She said, "These are adult matters, you don't need to know." But I was his son. I had the right to know why he abandoned us. She shut it down. She got the house and full custody of me and my brother, and Dad got visitation rights but never showed up. I hadn't seen him for over a year. I didn't know where he lived, if he had a job, if he was even alive. Eventually, I stopped waiting. I decided he didn't love me and that I had to move on. All of this was hard, but I was coping. And then Mom told me she was seeing a man named Robert. They'd met through friends, and within 3 months she was engaged. 3 months, Carl. I told her it was crazy to marry someone she barely knew. She said life was short, she deserved happiness, and I didn't understand relationships. I didn't argue because Mom can be very persuasive when she wants to be. Robert didn't sit right with me from the very first look. He was cold, barely talked to me, looked through me like I was furniture. But with my little brother, who's only 4, he was completely different, joking, playing, attentive. At first I thought it was normal since it's easier with little kids. But then I found out the truth. Mom said Robert had been offered a good job in another state, and they were going to move. They wanted to take only my brother because he's small and could still be raised as Robert's own son. But I was too old, and Robert thought I'd never accept him as a father. So Mom decided to leave me with Grandma. Couldn't believe it. My mother, who was supposed to protect me, was voluntarily giving me up for her new husband. I screamed, I cried. I begged her to take me with them. I said I didn't mind moving, that I wanted to be with her, that I didn't want to lose another parent. But she stood her ground. She kept saying it was better for everyone, that I wouldn't understand, that she had a right to her own life too. I felt betrayed, unwanted, and I realized she'd already chosen Robert over me. A few days later, I packed my things and left for Grandma's. I didn't say goodbye to Mom. I just walked out of the house with a backpack. I only said goodbye to my brother, hugging him and kissing his forehead. He didn't understand what was happening. He just looked at me with his big eyes and waved. As I left, I felt my heart tearing apart. I was leaving him with those people, and there was nothing I could do. I got in a taxi and went to Grandma's. Life at Grandma's wasn't so bad. She's kind. She loves me. She tries to give me everything I lost. She cooks my favorite meals, checks my homework, and listens when I'm angry. The commute to school is longer, but I got used to it. I started getting used to my new life. Mom barely called, and I didn't call her. We only talked when I asked to speak to my brother. She'd video call, and I'd see him and smile, then hang up because I didn't want to talk to her. She never apologized or explained. She just acted like nothing happened, and that made me even angrier. And then my birthday came. Grandma surprised me. She invited my friends from school. She found them through my Facebook, contacted their parents, and they came. It was the best day in months. We played board games, ate cake, laughed. I almost forgot I'd been abandoned. After we cut the cake, Grandma announced a gift. She said she was giving me her penthouse downtown. The apartment would be mine, though legally I'd become the full owner only when I turned 18. She explained that her lawyer would be my trustee until I came of age. Couldn't believe my ears. A penthouse? That's a fortune. I asked her why she was doing this, and she said she wanted me to have a home where I'd always be safe, where no one could ever kick me out. She said my mother had done a terrible thing by throwing me out, and she wouldn't let me end up homeless. I hugged her and cried. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly loved. I didn't know someone at the party had told Mom about the gift, but the next day she called me. I didn't want to answer, but she kept calling. I picked up and she said she'd heard about the penthouse, and that she and Robert had discussed it, and he was ready to adopt me if I could convince Grandma to transfer ownership to him. She said then I could go with them and we'd be a family. I was so angry I couldn't speak. I told her I'd never do that, and that she shouldn't call me anymore. She called back, I didn't answer. Then she sent me a long message, saying how hard the divorce had been, how Robert had been there for her, how she'd fallen in love with him, and that she just wanted to be happy. She asked me to understand and do what he asked so we could be together. I read that message and for a moment I almost softened. She's my mother, after all. But then I reread the part about doing what Robert wanted to earn her love, and I got angry again. She wasn't offering me love. She was bargaining. She was selling her motherhood for real estate. I replied that I wasn't going to do anything Robert wanted, and that she could leave with him as planned. That ended our conversation. The next day she came to Grandma's with my brother, but I was at school. When I got back, Grandma said Mom wanted to talk to me in person about the same thing. She'd brought my brother to soften me up, but I wasn't buying it. I told Mom straight out that I wasn't doing anything, that we didn't trust Robert. She started crying, saying she tried to make everyone happy but couldn't. I couldn't hold it in anymore and blurted out everything that had built up. You only tried to make yourself happy. You only thought about yourself. And now you want me to sell the apartment for your husband. You abandoned me just like Dad did. And now you just want to use me. She was shocked. She froze, stopped crying, then turned and left. The next day, I found out she'd blocked me and Grandma. I was alone. I started to doubt whether I'd done the right thing. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should have given her a chance. But Grandma told me, Ethan, you were protecting yourself. You have a right to your future. Those words helped, but inside I still felt empty. And then something happened that turned everything around. Grandma, without telling me, contacted my father. She found him through an old friend and left a message about what was happening. She didn't tell me because she wasn't sure he'd come, but he did. He showed up a few days later, and when I saw him at the doorstep, I almost collapsed. He looked older, his eyes tired, but he smiled at me and said, Ethan, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to hit him, but I also wanted him to hug me. And he did. He cried, apologized, said he'd been a fool, that his affair had ruined everything. He told me Mom had known about the affair but used it against him. She demanded he leave the house, pay huge child support, and not contact me, or she'd tell everyone about his infidelity. He agreed because he didn't want me to hate him as a cheater. He sacrificed everything for my respect. I listened and didn't know what to think. Anger at Dad mixed with anger at Mom. I realized she'd been manipulating me all these years. But Dad didn't just tell me that. He showed me photos from college where he, Mom, and Robert were all standing together. He said Robert had always been in love with Mom, that they'd had an affair even before Dad himself cheated. And when they divorced, she got back together with Robert. Dad said Robert was a con artist, and his plan was to get money and property. He asked me to meet with Mom and confront her. The next day, I went to Mom's while Robert wasn't there. I didn't tell her about Dad's visit. I just asked, Mom, did you know Robert before? Were you acquainted in college? She hesitated, looked away, and answered, No, we met by chance after the divorce. She lied. I knew it was a lie because I'd seen the photos. So I said, That's strange, because Dad showed me your college photos together. You were dating back then. She went pale, started stammering, saying it was a long time ago and didn't matter. I told her I knew about her blackmail and that she tried to steal my apartment. She started crying, but I didn't believe her tears. I left and told Dad he could take action. He began legal proceedings for custody and reduction of child support. And Robert, as soon as he heard about the court case, abandoned Mom. He realized he wouldn't get the penthouse. Mom was left alone, broken and broke. I don't feel sorry for her. She made her choice. Now Dad and I are trying to rebuild our relationship. I haven't forgiven him, but I'm giving him a chance. Mom. She writes sometimes, but I don't reply. Maybe someday. For now, I live with Grandma and prepare for my new life. If you're going through something similar, remember, you have the right to say no. Even to your own mother. Let me continue from where I left off, after I walked away from Mom when she lied to me. I already knew she wasn't who she pretended to be. I understood that for years she'd played the victim, but she was really a manipulator who'd used me and Dad. But the worst was yet to come. I had to face the fact that my family was completely shattered, and I had to rebuild my life from scratch. I'll tell you how I survived those days, how I found the strength to move on, and how I learned that real family isn't always blood relatives. After I said everything I needed to say to Mom, I went back to Grandma's. I didn't cry, I was hollow. I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling for hours. Grandma brought me tea, sat beside me, and silently stroked my head. She didn't ask questions or lecture me. She was just there, and that was the best thing she could have done. I knew she was always on my side, that she'd never betray me. That gave me strength. A few days later, my father started the legal process. He filed to change custody of my brother and reduce child support. He claimed Mom had violated the divorce terms because she'd started a relationship with Robert before Dad himself had cheated. It was a risky move because he had to admit his infidelity publicly. But he was ready. He told me, "Ethan, I'm tired of living in the shadows. I want to make things right." I could see he genuinely regretted it, and I started to trust him little by little. The trial was long. Mom tried to deny everything, but Dad had evidence. Photos, messages, testimony from old friends. Robert was also summoned to court but didn't show up. Later it turned out he'd simply fled town when he realized his plan had failed. Turns out there was no job in another state. He just wanted Mom's money and my penthouse. He used her, deceived her, and when she was no longer useful, he disappeared. Mom was left alone in debt with a broken heart. She tried calling me, but I didn't answer. She sent messages apologizing and begging for forgiveness. I read them and felt only bitterness. She'd chosen him over me, and now she was paying the price. The court ruled that Dad would get joint custody of my brother, and child support was reduced. I was given the right to decide where I wanted to live. I chose Grandma because I needed time to rebuild my relationship with Dad. We didn't become a perfect family overnight, but we started talking, seeing each other on weekends. My brother is slowly getting used to having Dad back in his life. And although I'm still angry at Dad for his affair and for leaving us, I can see he's trying. He comes to my games, helps with homework, says he's proud of me. And I let him be there because I want a father too. My mom, I can't forgive her. She tried to take away the only thing I had, my home, my security. She tried to use me for her new husband. I understand she was weak and lonely, but that doesn't excuse her actions. I'm not angry at her all the time. Sometimes I'm just sad. But I know I'm not ready to forgive her yet. Maybe in a few years I will, but not now. I'm still living with Grandma. I go to school, prepare for exams, sketch buildings I want to design. I want to be an architect. Grandma supports me in everything. We watch movies together, bake pies, talk about life. She's my rock, my safe haven. I know with her I'm secure. This story taught me so much. I learned that not everyone we love loves us back. I learned that blood ties don't always mean family. I learned that you can be strong even when your world is falling apart. And most importantly, I learned that I have a right to my own life, my own dreams, and my own property. No one can take away what rightfully belongs to me. If you're going through something similar, when a parent betrays you, when you're being used for money or convenience, remember you have the right to say no. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to happiness. Don't let anyone dictate how you should live. Family isn't just the people who gave birth to you. It's the people who love you for who you are and stand by you in hard times. My grandmother is my real family, and I hope my father will become that too. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'll handle it. I've already survived the worst, and if I can do it, so can you. Thank you for listening. If the story touched you, write in the comments how you cope with betrayal from loved ones. Hit like if you think I did the right thing. Subscribe to the channel, we'll talk about what matters. Good luck, and may your family be real. Let me continue. I want to tell you about the moments that stayed behind the scenes but shaped me just as much as the dramatic scenes. Because life isn't just about screaming and crying. It's about quiet dinners, long conversations, awkward silences, and small victories. And it's those details that make a story real. After Dad and I started slowly rebuilding our relationship, I realized I couldn't just forget everything that happened. Yes, I was angry at him and I had every right to be, but I also knew he was trying, and that mattered more than my pride. We started meeting on Saturdays. At first it was awkward, we didn't know what to talk about, we were afraid to look each other in the eye, we drank coffee in silence. But gradually we started talking. He told me about his work, how sorry he was about the past, how afraid he was that I'd never be able to forgive him. I listened and understood that he's human too, that he makes mistakes, that he also suffers. It didn't excuse his actions, but it helped me see him not just as an enemy, but as someone trying to fix his mistakes. One day he took me to an amusement park. We rode roller coasters, ate hot dogs, laughed. It was the first time in months I felt like a kid again. I looked at him and thought, maybe he's not as bad as I thought. He looked at me and smiled, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Genuine joy that we were together. I realized we'd never be a perfect family, but we could become something new. Two people trying to learn to trust each other again. I also thought a lot about my brother. Every evening I'd call Grandma to let me talk to him on video. He was still too young to understand what was happening, but he was always happy to see me on the screen. He'd show me his drawings, tell me about his toys, ask me to read him a story. I'd read to him over the phone, and those were the warmest moments of my life. I missed him and I knew he missed me, but I also knew I couldn't go back to Mom because she'd chosen someone else, and that broke my heart. One day Mom unblocked me for a few hours to send a message. She wrote, "Ethan, I know you're angry and I understand why. I was stupid, I was blind, I made a terrible mistake. But I'm still your mother, and I love you. Please give me a chance to make things right." I read that message and felt something shift inside me. I wanted to reply, to tell her I loved her too, that I wanted things to go back to how they were. But I remembered her standing there smiling while Robert talked about my penthouse. I remembered her asking me to transfer the property to him. And I realized her words were just words. She hadn't changed. She just realized she'd lost everything and was trying to win me back. But I didn't want to be anyone's backup plan. I didn't reply. I just closed my phone and went to play chess with Grandma. She looked at me with understanding and didn't ask what happened. She just said, "You're strong, Ethan. Remember that." Now I want to tell you about Grandma, about her house which became my refuge. She lives in a small house with a big garden. In the mornings I wake up to the smell of fresh rolls she bakes every day. We sit on the porch and drink tea, watching the sun rise over the trees. Sometimes she tells me about my mom, about what she was like as a child, cheerful, mischievous, dreamy. She says she doesn't know what happened to that girl, that she got lost somewhere along the way. And I see sadness in her eyes because she lost a daughter, just like I lost a mother. We share that pain and it brings us closer. Grandma taught me so much. She taught me to appreciate simple things: sunlight, silence, the smell of fresh bread. She once told me, "Money and apartments come and go, Ethan, but love and respect are what stay with you forever. Don't sell yourself for gold." And I've remembered those words. I also started keeping a journal. I write down my thoughts, my fears, my hopes. It helps me not lose my mind with everything going on. I write about missing my brother, about wanting to be an architect, about being afraid I'll never trust people again. I write about learning to forgive my father and trying to understand my mother. It's not easy, but it helps me keep moving forward. It's been a few weeks since Mom last wrote. She doesn't call or message anymore. I heard she sold the house and moved into a smaller apartment. She's trying to start over, but I know it's hard for her. Sometimes I feel guilty for not responding. But then I remember that she didn't respond when I begged her not to abandon me. And I realize I have to protect myself. I want to say one thing that might change your life. We don't have to love those who don't love us. We don't have to forgive those who don't sincerely ask for forgiveness. We don't have to sacrifice our future for a past we didn't choose. We have the right to our own life, our own pain, our own decisions. And if someone isn't willing to walk beside us, we have the right to walk alone. I met my father yesterday. We sat in a cafe, and he told me, "Ethan, I want you to know I won't be like before. I won't disappear. I'll be here, no matter how long it takes." I looked at him and said, "I believe you, Dad." For the first time in a long time, I called him Dad. He broke down crying, and I cried with him. That was the moment we stopped being enemies and started becoming a family. I want to thank all of you reading this. I don't know who you are, but I know you're here because something in my story resonated with you. Maybe you have a mom like mine, or a Robert, Maybe you also feel abandoned and betrayed. I want you to know you're not alone. We all go through this, and we can all become stronger. My story isn't over yet. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'm ready for it. I'm ready for new challenges, new relationships, a new life. And I know I have grandma, I have my father, I have my brother, and I have myself. And that's enough. Thank you for listening to the end. If you feel this matters, subscribe so you don't miss the continuation. Write in the comments how you cope with betrayal from loved ones. Hit like if you think I did the right thing. And remember, you have the right to your future. Don't let anyone take it from you. See you next time, and take care of yourselves.